NBA lottery teams, with the exception of very few, are looking for one thing only, and that is a potential superstar to bring them out of the bottom of the league and back into contention. Finding a player like that is a lot easier in some drafts than others. Last year, for example, the Spurs didn't have to try all that hard to find their future superstar. This year, however, things are a bit more complicated than that. Even at the top end, there's no prospect that's a sure bet, so you go back to things that have indicated stardom in the past to try to determine who could be the next. Youth, athleticism, scoring production, and shot creation are just a few of those premium traits, and when you take a look at Ron Holland, he fits those standards to a T. An incredibly young and athletic prospect out of the G League Ignite, Holland's season didn't quite go how he had planned, but amidst all that chaos, he quietly put together one of the most productive seasons in the history of the G League Ignite's prospects. After an extremely productive high school career, Holland has a lot of what you want to see in an NBA prospect, but has a number of question marks as well. So today we're going to take a look at the pros of his game, the cons, and what level he could potentially reach as an NBA player. So with all that, let's get into it. There's a couple major things you want to see from Holland if you're trying to project him as a potential future superstar, and probably the top of that list is improvement as a shooter in all aspects. Holland has some good things to build on here. His shot looks very smooth in my opinion. It's a nice high release and he puts it up quick. The problem is the results haven't really been there at any level. In high school, he shot a higher percentage from the field than he did in the G League. He was around 60% as a high schooler versus 44% as a G Leaguer, but he's never been a knockdown shooter from range. As last year in the G League, he shot an ugly 24% from 3 on nearly 4 attempts a game. We've seen players come into the league with this problem before. Good scorer with all the athleticism in the world, but can't shoot the ball. Josh Jackson and Emmanuel Mudiay immediately come to mind as worst case scenarios of this problem in recent years. Betting on the shooting is a make or break thing for a guy like Ron Holland. He gets his percentages up to the mid 30s and you're talking all-star level player probably. If he stays in the low 20s, quite frankly, he would be hard to keep on the floor. There's very little space in the NBA for players who can't shoot, and you have to be pretty incredible at some other things to justify being on the court without a shot. And I just don't know if I would consider Holland that. At the most, without a shot, he would probably be a rim-running forward who can play some defense. I don't want this section to seem like me hating on him, so just to re-clarify, he has some good reasons to trust he will turn into a good shooter, his form, his free throw percentage, etc. And simply the fact that I think his real problem is mentally and hesitating on a shot, not the lack of skill itself, all makes me think that the development could be there, but him developing that shot seems like a crucial thing to me. I actually really have a lot of positive things to say about Ron Holland's shot creation. Many people who've done scouting reports have counted this as a negative for him, but I disagree. I think his shot creation is one of the selling points on him. The main reason I'm much higher on his shot creation ability than many others is you can clearly see how much better he has gotten at it just over the past year. In high school, he really wasn't much of a shot creator at all. Even as good as he was as a high schooler, he just didn't do much shot creation. And at the beginning of the G League season, things were looking rough for him on that front. But the advancement here was pretty pronounced, and by the end of the season, while still not overly efficient, was making a lot of really impressive moves that you see number one type guys making in the league. Can he do that immediately in the NBA? I wouldn't say consistently. He's got a ways to go before I feel he would be the type of guy that could take a game over, but he has the skill set to be that type of guy if he can develop that skill set, and he's shown flashes of being that type of guy in the G League. If I were to pick the strongest aspect of his offensive game right now, it's going to clearly be his finishing at the rim, without a doubt. Finishing is definitely his most pro-ready skill and something I think he will be effective at from the beginning. If there was any aspect of Ron Holland's game that could be considered efficient on the offensive end, it would be that finishing, especially in transition. He was over 70% at the rim in transition, and also a high percentage comparatively speaking at the rim in the half court, shows that this is a skill he will lean on in the NBA to start off. He's a great athlete, finishing above the rim with regularity, and he gets up to the rim with burst and quickness, with a great ability to finish in a variety of ways, up and unders, reverses, through contact, and so on. I'd look for Holland to continue to be a quality at the rim finisher in the NBA. Holland is best described as a neutral playmaker. Like a couple other aspects in his game, you really saw him improve here as the season went on. At the beginning of the year, he was regularly forcing passes and throwing just generally inaccurate balls, but by the end of the year, he looked more and more like the type of player a team would be fine with putting the ball in his hands and letting him go to work. He's gotten more decisive and delivers the ball with more confidence, which truthfully is a pattern for him, not just on the passing, but his shooting too. He isn't consistently confident with a move that he's making, whether it be the pass or the shot, but when he does something with confidence, it's successful more often than not. That's definitely been the case with his playmaking. He's also a willing passer, which for a wing, that's really all you can ask for. Anything after that is just a bonus. You're rarely going to ask your wing to be the primary floor general type player, but if you can put the ball in your wing's hand and he can try to go to score, but if it isn't there, he will make the right decision and not force anything, that's a major plus. And Holland does come out on the positive end for that. The finishing was the strongest aspect of Holland's offensive game, but the strongest dynamic in his game overall is his defense. He really presents as a great defensive wing, and while he's not going to come in and be like a Herb Jones level wing defender, he should have no issue guarding guys from the get-go, and absolutely should not be one of those rookies that gets picked on the defensive end when they're on the floor. He's got great defensive mobility and lateral quickness, his explosiveness helps him a lot in getting blocks, and his passing lane anticipation is great. He averaged over 2 steals a game in the G League, and if that can translate at all, he will have a shot to be one of the best wing defenders in this class by the time the year ends. Everyone always makes the same comparisons for these guys, so I do, when I can, try to come up with a bit of variety here. And one player I see shades of in Holland's game is San Diego State Kawhi Leonard. Now, just to make it totally clear, Kawhi's development as a player was spectacular and quite frankly hard to predict. There's absolutely no guarantee Holland gets anywhere near the level of Kawhi at his best, which is one of the best players in the NBA in his prime. But the traits that he had then are similar to the traits that Holland has now. Good scorer, though Holland now is a better scorer than Kawhi was at San Diego State. They're both great rebounders for a small forward, power forward type player. Strong player. They're both straight line drivers who showed signs of some shot creation ability, even if they weren't elite at it yet at their young age, and long athletic defenders. Both of them also came across as poor three-point shooters when looking purely at shot percentages, but both had solid shot forms to build upon, and both shot 75% from the free throw line in their last year before entering the NBA, showing that the shooting potential is there. Overall, there's really a lot of similarities between the two as prospects, with Holland honestly having better pure production as a prospect than Kawhi did. And while you can't measure the improvement that Kawhi made, you can say that the traits and similarities are there as prospects. So, in conclusion, I am a believer in what Ron Holland brings to the table. Yes, he is a risky pick. Yes, we have seen players like him bust in the past, but there's a lot of risky players in this year's draft. In a year like this, there are no surefire bets. And like I mentioned at the beginning, everyone in the lottery wants a star first and foremost. You can choose to take a lower ceiling prospect and just hope to slot him in as a solid starter long term, but solid starter doesn't get you out of the lottery. A go-to star does. And in the mid-range of the lottery, if I were to take a gamble on who has the highest likelihood of being the star, I would take Holland. For example, I prefer him over Buzelis, I prefer him over Shepard, I prefer him over Cody Williams. I honestly even think as far as top-end star upside goes, he's probably over Ricochet. Though Ricochet's floor is much higher, I think he's nearly guaranteed to be at least a solid starter, where Holland may not necessarily have that floor. The only player in the mid-range of the lottery I think probably has comparable to better upside is Stephon Castle, but in my opinion, he'll most likely play himself into the top 3 or 4 after the combine and pre-draft workouts. If you're sitting anywhere from 5 to 10 in the draft and your team takes Ron Holland, I think it's totally fair to be excited with the long-term prospects if you can get past a few of those efficiency red flags, because if he gets past those red flags and becomes, say, a 35% three-point shooter and overall field goal percentage in the high 40s, I think multiple-time All-Star is easily in his range of outcomes. And with all that, we conclude this video. I appreciate you all watching this one, whether you agree or disagree with my analysis here. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed this one. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.